Well, is it better to start a story thinking about those themes and developing outward rather than saying, oh, hey, I've got this great plot and then grafting these themes onto it? Like, do you start with, hey, I want to explore this?
I think so. I mean, Split Decision definitely came from theme first. Life Unexpected, I kind of backed into the theme. Like, it came from an idea, and it wasn't really until after we shot the pilot and we were staffing up writers that I was, sitting with my producing partner, Mary Beth Basil, and she was like, this show is like a lot about you, like this is like stuff that you think about and deal with like in your own life. And I didn't even really realize I had done it. I mean, even though it's so obvious.
So were you like ripping off your own life and you're like, hey, this is an original idea, and then someone said, this is you?
Yeah. Well, I always am like, oh, it'd be so self-indulgent to like write yourself. Like you don't have any ideas, you're just writing you, and like as if you're so interesting. And I mean, certainly when people say Life Unexpected, people will say like, oh, so that's your story. And it's like, that's not my story. That's a personal story that's about things I think about. But it's not my story,
You're not Lux.
I'm
You're
not Lux.
Kate.
No. I mean, a lot of the way they behave is similar to me, but I don't have their backstory. Do you know what I mean? I was adopted by two wonderful parents who feel entirely like my parents, who gave me a great life, and Lux was given up to nobody and never had that, and finds these two very flawed people, but at the same time, Baze was inspired by real people I know, and the relationship of Kate and Baze was inspired by a type of relationship I was in. Not
so like there are pieces of truth in there, and they're mixed with fiction, and it all kind of comes together.
There's a lot of truth in there.
If you hadn't realized that it was your story, until you were at staffing after it's been ordered, how did you connect to the characters beforehand? Like when you were developing the pilot, like what was your way into those characters before you realized, oh, it's me?
It's probably really obvious. Like it should have been really obvious. It was me. I mean, Kate has a couple rants in the pilot that are just me. Like, I hate toes, I hate buying ingredients, I hate the word moist, I think it's weird that Kansas and Colorado touch. Like, all those things are, that's me. And her frustrations with Baze were my frustrations, in certain relationships. So I think I pulled from that. I mean, I'm not as, and Sherry would say she's not either. I think neither of us are quite as jaded as Kate. If you don't get close to anybody, you can't get hurt. I don't feel that way, at least not that I know of. But I probably feel more that way having been hurt. I'm like, I can see how that makes sense, But when I first wrote the character, the first pass of the script, Kate was a lot harsher, and we definitely got the likability note. And
you can't have unlikable characters. This is the CW for crying out loud.
Exactly, and it was funny because, and actually we got the note when it was back for ABC Studios even, for the CW, but the note was from ABC Studios, and I remember they said, nobody's gonna like her, like she's hard and harsh and mean and all these things, and I really had felt like I had written myself to some degree, and so
you're like,
not
you're
thematic.
Harsh, you're mean, Liz.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, really? I thought she was charming, quirky, and lovable,
It don't make sense when we cast someone who says it exactly the way I see it in my head.
Exactly. But you know what? In retrospect, or in hindsight, I think they were right. We softened the character, and we probably made Baze a little harsher. And then when we cast Chris Plaha, he became mushier too, just because Chris is such a dad.
And then casting Sherry, were you sort of subconsciously looking for yourself to play that role? If Kate is sort of you, were you watching it and going, no, and then someone walks in sort of like you and you go, yes, that's
Well, it's funny. I definitely was picturing someone blonde. Lux is obviously blonde, and people always joke about it. They're like, oh, you just made Lux you, and I'm like, if I was as cute as Britt Robertson, I would be the happiest person in the world, but that is not the case. Like, Britt is not me, and I am not her. I wish I was, but yeah, there's an essence of the character that was me, and when people see her clothes and stuff, they would definitely be like, oh, I took a lot of her clothes home. And then with Sherry, I was picturing someone kind of blonde in my head, and I was like, oh, I think I was looking for kind of that type. And then Sherry came in, and she was wonderful, and we actually lost her for a time, and she came back kind of right at the end. And I was saying, you know, last week when we were talking about the show, and she was there, I was saying I just couldn't picture it being anyone else but Sherry now. Like, I think, you know, at the time you're like, oh, this person, this person, this person, and there were people who were wonderful and people I really wanted. And once Sherry came back around and wanted it, it was like, this is our person, like this is our Kate, and she was perfect for it. I mean, she's so much of her is that character, and what I mean by that is, like, Sherry's not afraid. Sherry never asked me, you know, am I likable? She was just so ready to dive in and like be exactly who she was, and dive into that character and be kind of raw and like cry the ugly cry and not be perfect all the time. And I think the character was grappling with things that resonated with Sherry too.
Well, what's funny is the first time I heard your voice was on a podcast, so I was like hearing you and not seeing you, and I thought, this sounds like Sherry's voice. Like, it was a little weird that she kind of talks like you too on the show, and so I wonder if there's some sort of subconscious thing going on.
Yeah, I think so.